I'm tired of someone else's propaganda. I'm for truth no matter who says it. I'm for justice no matter who it's for or against. I'm a human first and foremost, and as such, I'm for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole. Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, also known as the late Malcolm X.
There are those who insist that there is a conflict between science and religion, but I question whether anyone insisting such comprehends either science or religion. The function of both can be discerned, and I maintain the scientific method can assist in bringing about an understanding of religion. There are channels that promote science education on YouTube, such as the NCSE, the National Center for Science Education, 2, vloggers such as Don Exodus 2 and Thunderfoot. The latter began as activists to expose the dangers of creationism. As such, does in fact promote a conflict between science and religion. Don Exodus 2 started his YouTube channel in order to serve as a reference for those who sought to defend science and debate creationism. He saw so much misunderstanding and misinformation about scientific issues and sought to provide clarity and well-reasoned arguments against creationist rhetoric. Thunderfoot also started out as an activist vlogger, and shortly thereafter the focus of his channel shifted towards refuting creationist claims. He gained considerable popularity with his series, Why Do People Laugh at Creationists? Venom Fang X, a radical Christian creationist vlogger, was Thunderfoot's most notable opponent. Venom Fang wrongfully filed DMCAs against Thunderfoot's videos, attempting to illegally censor and silence his arguments. Thunderfoot forced Venom Fang to make a public apology for his unethical actions. Thunderfoot's friend and attorney, DPR Jones, felt the need to play armchair psychologist, making a psychological assessment of Venom Fang. After Venom Fang X left YouTube, Thunderfoot and DPR Jones joined in with well-known anti-theist Fact vs. Religion in a Skype call along with Venom Fang and his father, which resulted in publicly disgracing Sean. This came about after Jorno42 had the audacity to look into Venom Fang's grossly personal information and contact his father. Ray Comfort, a slimy used car salesman type who uses Christianity as a tool to exploit others, agreed to meet with Thunderfoot. And what required a strong, forceful Christopher Hitchens approach, Thunderfoot went soft against this absurd banana man. Because of the format, Thunderfoot's usual tactics were not possible in a live one-on-one debate. It is widely considered he failed miserably. Thunderfoot proved he could not answer actual arguments in debate as he relies heavily on character assassination, a tactic frequently used against his online opponents. Thunderfoot produced videos about Christianity in a short-lived series entitled The Bible for Beginners, and later even asked if God was a volcano. In these, he seems to have an utter lack of appreciation and understanding for myth. He abandoned his well-reasoned approach in his Why Do People Laugh at Creationist series. He launched into an arrogant commentary on a subject to which he had no expertise. Thunderfoot then reacted to the controversy over South Park being wrongfully censored and prevented from depicting the Prophet Muhammad. He utilized this issue of Draw Muhammad Day in order to promote his anti-Islamic agenda. Yet he and many of those he associates with could not distinguish between actual social criticism of a religious figure and depictions of a racist, bigoted stereotypes. Thunderfoot spoke about awakening a sleeping giant, a line from a movie that is wrongfully attributed to the actual historical Admiral Yamamoto. Ali, a Muslim vlogger known as Dawa Films, made a reply to Thunderfoot, which was grossly misinterpreted. He did commit one cardinal sin, though, by playing into the various stereotypes that many make against Muslims with his poorly chosen words. Ali stated, "Send you to the God you wish you knew." This was a grave error on Ali's part, and Thunderfoot capitalized on this and made it out to be a death threat, once again playing the fear-mongering card to his sycophants. Despite Ali's clarifications, as well as those by Conference Report, Jasper Abbey, and Tooltime 901, amongst many others, who have already explained this in detail, what Ali said was not a death threat, something Thunderfoot is well aware of. He continues to make this baseless and false accusation. Together for Peace sums up this mess quite well.
Is Dawa Films' assessment of what you were saying correct? Is his assessment that you want to use this force, like nuclear force, for the purposes of destroying people who don't think like you, destroying Muslims and non-Muslims? Is that what you were saying? If that's what you were saying, then indeed, I stand behind what Dawa Films has said. If you seek to destroy people just because they disagree with you, because they hold a different ideology, a different perspective on things than you, and you just want to destroy them just for the purposes of because they disagree, then certainly I have a problem with that too. However, I just didn't get that that was what your video was saying. So given that that's not, assuming I'm correct, that that's not what your video was saying, then why are you taking this clip from his video and sensationalizing it and making it sound like he's threatening you? Instead of just merely saying, you know what, Dawa Films, that's not what I was saying. So it makes me wonder. I'm like, okay, now I'm confused. Was Thunderfoot's video what seemed to be clear to me? Is that what he was really saying, or is it not clear? And Wadawa Films is indeed sort of what Thunderfoot meant by it. But no, you don't do any of that. Instead, sensationalist mischaracterization of what Wadawa Films says in the entirety of his video. I have little respect for that type of approach.
Thunderfoot still continues to insist that Ali, who he refers to as a, quote, primitive lowlife, believes his religion mandates the right to kill innocent people. He even refers to Islam as, quote, some barbaric Middle Eastern cult, end quote. Thunderfoot fails at proving his absurd accusation beyond a reasonable doubt, while turning this into nothing but a semantics game, which of course only Thunderfoot is exclusively capable of interpreting accurately. He smears Ali and all Muslims, saying that actions by them are ones that even hate groups stay clear on. YouTube blogger Happy Cabby implied to Ali that Thunderfoot contacted the FBI regarding a death threat. Thunderfoot was asked to verify this in a blog TV show and refused to do so. Now Happy Cabby has suddenly changed his mind and said he was mistaken. Thunderfoot now says he never took a death threat that never even occurred in the first place seriously. We still don't know what happened, but we do know it is a crime to file a false claim with the FBI. Ali was targeted by Thunderfoot's sycophants with a hate campaign, which Thunderfoot has never publicly objected to. This has continued for 5 months, with Ali receiving death threats and excessive cyber harassment, despite his numerous attempts to clarify his statements and reason with his detractors. So why doesn't Thunderfoot wish to speak out against bigotry, cyberbullying, and harassment, all done in his name, an activity which he regularly complains about being carried out by theists in the name of God? Allegations were made that Ali was after Thunderfoot's personal information. Ali's search for information was never a secret, though. It was well known, as he did so publicly in full light. All the information Ali sought was in relation to who Thunderfoot was professionally, not where he was or could be found or any other grossly personal information. There was no malevolent intent whatsoever. Ali stated in a Skype chat log with Dixie Comic, and I quote, "I just want to make it clear because I have no interest in hurting him." Ali never was interested in any personal information. Ali only wanted to verify Thunderfoot's profession to understand who he was dealing with. As for the possibility of contacting Thunderfoot's employer, that was purely emotionally speculative on Ali's part. Ali has stated many times he would only take proper, appropriate legal action if solid evidence required him to do so after consulting an attorney. DPR Jones also said at one point, when he acquires information on another user online, that I don't intend to use them, but I like to be armed with info just in case. He dubiously obtained the grossly personal information of Venom Thing X through unspecified methods, and had the audacity to send holy water via Peter Popoff to his address.
I also realized that I was wrong when I said in part 1 that I hadn't disclosed your information. I have. I disclosed it to Peter Popoff. I hope you enjoy the spring water I sent you.
After seeking Venom's address and contacting his parents through Jordan Owen 42, he and Thunderfoot make the claim that Ali has crossed some inexcusable line. This is the absolute height of hypocrisy. DPR Jones and Thunderfoot have cried crocodile tears on this matter. There is also an accusation that Ali was interested in hacking Thunderfoot's secondary YouTube account, and such has been explained as joking by Ali. Ali is a Muslim, but to be stereotyped as an evil terrorist without a sense of humor is cynical and malicious. I question whether Thunderfoot is capable of telling the difference between humor, prose, and poetry, especially when it comes to religion and anyone who is religious. Regarding Islam, Thunderfoot states, quote, I really see the world will be a better place when in 50 years, if this anti-science attribute to the religion is diminished or the number of people practicing the religion is diminished. Well, I've heard this argument before regarding atheism and homosexuality, how such is immoral, counterproductive to human civilization, and that the latter spreads disease. If only we could just educate these fools out of such nonsense. Thunderfoot is to have us believe he is non-biased when he has stated he agrees with Eagle Eye that moderate Muslims are the ones too cowardly to blow themselves up while cheering on the actions of violent extremists in the back of their minds. For people like Thunderfoot, a true Muslim must be a terrorist. While the current status of the Middle East as a region in turmoil and badly in need of modern development is not in question, to blame all those problems on religion is utterly absurd. The area has been in continual flux since the end of the Age of Empires after the close of the First World War. The European powers divided up the remains in Europe and the Middle East and elsewhere, often drawing lines on a map, dividing the spoils of war between them with little concern for the realities on the ground or the wishes of those who live there. We all know the mess that caused in Europe and how it resulted in the Second World War. Conflict continues in the Middle East. But to not understand how politics played a role in creating this mess is to be willfully ignorant. There are many factors to take into account. As for the argument that there is an anti-science element to the Islamic faith, let us not forget, as Muhammad Hamadullah, a scholar of Islam and international law, stated regarding the 10th century encyclopedia of the Brethren of Purity, and I quote, "The Muslim thinkers state that the ape then evolved into a lower kind of barbarian man. He then became a superior human being. English translations of the encyclopedia were available from 1812 onward, and this may have directly influenced Charles Darwin. If Islam is such a detriment culturally, then how come it influenced such a conclusion? And what about the golden age of Islam?" Thunderfoot responded to Coughlin by diagnosing him with histrionic personality disorder. This is reminiscent of D.P.R. Jones' diagnosis of Venom Fang X. Thunderfoot, if an argument is made against him, concludes that the person making the argument must have some kind of mental illness. This is consistent with his history of character assassination. This was also used in Soviet Russia as a draconian manner of suppressing any and all critics. Thunderfoot, who so often accuses others of cowardice, continually behaves like a feckless thug when it comes to arguing and presenting his case here on YouTube. He has continuously ignored or refused to address well-reasoned criticism. When this has failed, he has resorted to the self-same tactics he has so utterly condemned creationists for using. When he has faced those with an actual understanding of the issues, he slithers away like the snake that he is. Though he attempted to respond to Deland and Cole, Thunderfoot showcased his failures to communicate, to comprehend another's point of view, and fairly respond to criticism. Alexander Hamilton wisely pointed out that I have thought it my duty to exhibit things as they are, not as they ought to be. Wasn't it the aim of the Thunderfoot channel to have science at its heart? Yet, now he pushes a conclusion and cherry-picks evidence to have such neatly fit together to reflect his own biased conclusions without citing evidence. Using your own videos to push an East versus West mentality that paints a black and white perspective while promoting stereotypes does not reflect utilization of the scientific method. The videos he has posted do not include proper citation of clips used or have a bibliography included. Isn't citation, clarifying, and posting disclaimers important from someone who brags about peer-reviewed journals and responsibility? Apparently not. Thunderfoot hosted a Blog TV broadcast on the channel Beauty in the Universe on September 13th, 2009. Aaron Raw and Don Exodus 2 co-hosted. The latter spoke at length about their objectives on YouTube. Thunderfoot boldly declared his online agenda that the only way to truly promote science is to relentlessly disparage individual theists by utterly humiliating them, just as he did with Venom Fang X, and holding them up as a burnt effigy against the religion itself. This point was agreed upon by all involved. It is appalling to suggest that this approach actually promotes science. This explains the long history of character assassination coming from Thunderfoot and all those who have joined his exclusive anti-theist clan. It's quite apparent for them in their minds that the ends justify the means. Don Exodus 2 verified this agenda.
You should never debate a creationist, and I do believe that unless you know enough about them, because a lot of it is about presentation, and it's a lot about your style of argument, and it's about your ability to think on your feet. And I personally know that I'm very good at that, and I know that he is not so much. And having reality on my side isn't really a bad thing. So YouTube needed another, I don't want to say another villain, but it had gone stagnant. After Venom Fang X was, carried away to his padded room, and after Gear Up kind of disappeared, there was really no one in the community, kind of gone stagnant. Here we got a crazy person, and I saw an opportunity.
It reminded me when Thunderfoot said about Venom Fang X, quote, "If you do go, I will miss you. It will be hard to find someone as worthy as you for being the poster boy for creationist stupidity." Is it any surprise that Thunderfoot went from this ad hominem campaign of referring to Venom Fang X as PCS, the poster boy for creationist stupidity, to referring to Ali, Dawa Films, as PISS, the poster boy for Islamic stupidity? So, they play armchair psychologists, judging and condemning their targets as being mentally handicapped, maligning their character with droves of followers who harass and ridicule them to their breaking point. Is it conscionable to attack someone you believe to be mentally ill? Is it ethical to attack someone based on their inability to properly understand religious text? Is it scientific to preach certainty of absolute truth? I am for criticism of religion, but this isn't valid criticism. It's malevolent. Now the objective is no longer the advancement of science, but to prey upon others they deem to be intellectually inferior in order to inflate their own egos. Worst of all, they do so in the name of logic and reason. Thunderfoot and Don Exodus 2, you may be scientists offline, but you are certainly not scientists online with this vile agenda. Finally, consider what Tooltime 9901 recently noted. Socrates said that if he were ever to be shown to be wrong in an argument, that it would be a benefit to him rather than harm, because the person that was right simply stays right. But Socrates would have been purged of one more false point of view. I am always baffled by people who zealously guard their opinions and defend them against all objections, even when they are wrong, just because they seem to value thinking they are right more than actually being right. I know where I stand on this. Do you?